Previously on Logan Rando Aquascaping.
With this new lighting upgrade, I've got really high hopes. But who knows? I could eat my own words a few weeks from now and get a ton of algae because this light is putting the pedal to the metal. Oh no, I've got algae. Hello and welcome to Logan Rando Aquascaping. My name is Logan and today I am going to show you guys how to get rid of stubborn green algae from your tank. I've got a ton of pro tips that are going to help you manually remove it, and then we're going to talk about how we can keep it out of our tanks for good so it's not something we have to constantly battle. So let's dive right in. So about 6 weeks ago, I decided to upgrade the lighting on my ADA 45P from the ONF Flat Nano, which was an awesome light, but I wanted to see how far I could push the colors. So I decided to upgrade to the TwinStar 450 SM. This is the 45 centimeter version of their highest quality light. And unfortunately, the aquascaping gods punished me for my hubris, and they decided to gift me some stubborn green algae. So you can see that the foreground and the midground is just totally infested with some pretty nasty looking hairy green algae. And then if you look at the background plants, you know, you got a little BBA sprinkled in here and there, some filamentous green algae. It's just not looking so nice. And prior to having this light, things were nice and clean and stable. So my hubris got the best of me and I was punished accordingly. But now we're gonna make things right. So how do we get rid of this? Well, when you're dealing with green algae and really all algae in general, the most important thing you can do is address the root issue. This is absolutely paramount. And if you ignore this, you're gonna do a lot of work, but you're not gonna see results. And when you're dealing with algae, the root cause is actually quite simple. Even though there are different types of algae that sort of thrive from different things, they all operate on some sort of an imbalance between your lighting, your nutrient dosing, and the CO2 levels. We can toss oxygen in there as well. Not as talked about, but those first three are the really prime ones you want to address. So most of the time there is some excess of lighting and a combination of nutrients that is allowing the opportunistic algae to thrive, multiply, and become highly visible. So in your tank, algae is pretty much omnipresent. It's always there lurking, but if things are well balanced, then the plants are gonna really thrive. They're gonna take up all the nutrients, they're gonna soak up all the lighting, and there's not gonna be much left over for the algae. But when there is a lot left over for the algae is going to multiply very quickly. And first thing you want to do is address the root cause. And in the case of my tank, I am dosing the lean method, so I know there's not an excess of nutrients. However, with this lighting upgrade, there is now an excess of light. So unfortunately, this high-end TwinStar light does not have a built-in dimmer like some of the lower-end versions. So first thing I did was order myself a dimmer, and I am taking the lighting down from 100% to 50%. Now that may seem drastic, but in my personal experience, it's not a bad idea to scale the lighting way back, and then as things stabilize, gradually ramp it back up. So now that our root cause is addressed, it's time to get in there and do some manual removal. And we're gonna do this in several steps. The first step is through some fine maintenance. And here's a pro tip for you. Using brushes, I like to use an electric toothbrush that has been soaked in hydrogen peroxide, is gonna give you a safe way to add a little chemical cleaning to your tank. So in the case of my algae issue, the green algae is interwoven between the fine leaves of the Hemianthus cuba and the Eleocharis. And that's really difficult to remove, you know, using blunt tools and big siphons. So I gotta get in there and I gotta do some scrubbing. And I'm using my electric toothbrush that's been dipped in hydrogen peroxide to really kind of tease out that algae. And the electric toothbrushes are nice because they do a little bit of the work for you with that spinning head. I just use a Crest spin brush, you know, once or twice a year I'll replace the head, and that'll do wonders for you. I've had excellent results with this technique. So I'm just going all around and really scrubbing, gently. You don't want to uproot anything, but you do want to sort of remove as much of the algae as possible. And you're going to stir it up into the water column, and things are going to get nasty looking and things are going to get cloudy. So it's important to work fairly quickly because you do want to remove that algae water as quickly as possible. With that first step down, it's time to bring out our tiny little airline hose. And this is a technique that I don't see too often, probably because it is very meticulous and requires a lot of patience. But I've got 99 problems, but patience is not one of them. In fact, that can be a little bit obsessive when it comes to tank maintenance. So I'm getting in there and I'm going over the individual leaves with my airline hose, and I'm seeing if I can tease out more algae that the toothbrush did not. Good thing about the airline hose is you're doing a midi water change, so you're also removing the algae. This is a great technique for green algae. BBA is going to be a little bit too stubborn to remove. You'd have to dislodge it first, but combination of the toothbrush with this is going to give you some great initial results. And now that all my fine manual removal is complete, it's time to go in with my UNS curved scissors. And I'm taking down the plants a little bit, really just the most egregious leaves that are algae infested. So I'm taking the hair grass down, taking the cuba down a little bit. That's gonna make room for nice, clean, new growth. But I don't wanna be too heavy-handed with my scissors at this stage, because if I were to hack everything down, that's gonna leave the plants very vulnerable, and we wanna keep them strong until things stabilize. All right, now that our fine maintenance is complete, it's time to get in there and do our coarse maintenance. So for this job, we're scrubbing the glass, we're cleaning the rocks, and then we are going to siphon out the water and do a big water change. Now, depending on what species you're keeping and the size of your tank, you can do anywhere from like a 50 to 80% water change. However, in my case, I keep sensitive caridina here, so I'm gonna keep it to a 30% water change, and then I'm gonna add the water back in and remineralize with salty shrimp, GHKH, to about 120 parts per million TDS. So our big water change is done, our big maintenance section is done. We've addressed the root cause by lowering the lighting, maybe you reduce your nutrient dosing a bit, depends on your individual case. And now it is time to do our daily observations. So every day, multiple times a day, you want to be looking at your tank and you want to be looking at those problem areas. And what you're looking for is stability. You do not want to see the algae bouncing back in full effect. Now, perhaps a little bit is going to come back. That's normal. We're going to keep fighting it as the weeks go on. But if the algae is, taking you back to square one and it's bouncing back quickly, that means there is still a parameter that needs to be adjusted. So if that was the case with you, probably the following week, you would want to lower the lighting even more until things really stabilized. But in my case, 1 week later, I had found that the lighting reduction was giving me decent results. I didn't have a big bounce back of algae, things didn't seem to get worse. So now it's time to do a big trimming. So I like to take my plants way down to kind of make room for that nice healthy growth, and so that everything will come in nice and clean and hopefully algae free. And that's exactly what I did. I took the background way down, I took the foreground and the midground way down, and this is gonna pave the way for nice, clean, healthy growth. So with all of that maintenance under our belt and a couple weeks gone by, I'm fairly confident that things are gonna start looking a lot better as the weeks progress. And the most important thing we did was really address the root issue. I cannot stress how important that is to do, because in life, we tend to put band-aids on things all the time, and aquascaping is very unforgiving if you use the band-aid approach. You have to look at the core issues and see what is causing your imbalance and sort of take care of that right away. And that's what we did. So let me know down below in the comments if you kind of have any pro tips or techniques that I haven't addressed about algae removal and keeping it out of your tank. I think this community, can always benefit from some great pro tips regarding algae. So thank you so much for watching. This has been Logan with Logan Rando Aquascaping, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.